All right, welcome back, everybody. I have with me the wonderful Christine Fawson joining me for an interview today. Welcome, Christine. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, Michael. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we were supposed to do this a week or so ago, and then we ended up having to have a postponement. But I'm so happy that you were actually able to join me. And I have so many questions for you because we first met when I auditioned for your big band, which of course has been put on hold since the pandemic started. And I am so looking forward to when that gets started. And then I find out that how much of a performer you are, and your the credits to your name are absolutely amazing. Now you're from Northern California area originally, right? So
Yes.
where exactly are you from?
I grew up in Ukiah, California.
Where is Ukiah?
It's on 101, like 2 hours north of San Francisco.
Oh, okay, really northern, like up by the Oregon border, right?
That's right. Yeah, not that far, but yeah, it's south of Humboldt, right? So it's
Okay,
south of Eureka, between there.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, so
So
now I know
beautiful
where you
place
are.
to grow up, small town. It still is. But my family moved from there. So when I left high school, my parents moved to Utah. So I haven't actually been back. I've been back a couple of times, but yeah, it was a great place to grow up, and we had a good music program.
So what brought you to the Albuquerque area, and when did you move here?
Great question. My husband and I were both musicians, and we met in Boston many years ago. Um, I was teaching at the Berklee College of Music, and he was a freelance musician and teaching around. Um, and so we met because it's a pretty small scene in any city, right?
Mhm.
Um, and we worked our asses off, man. I mean, we were in so many bands. I played every shitty gig there was, and then good ones too. But
Right.
man, I mean, I really feel like I hustled, man, and I feel like I did it the right way. I feel like the gigs I played in Boston, when by the time I left Boston, I was playing really high-end corporate gigs, and
Hmm.
playing with some well-known artists and things like that. But man, on the way up to those gigs, man, I told band leaders I had a car before I had one. I was like borrowing my roommates' cars. I was taking trains everywhere. I was just hustling, and I feel like I did it the right way. Like I never like kissed ass to a band director, band leader. I just showed up. I
Right.
tried, and I love to play different styles of music. So I think that was good for me with my attitude of optimism.
So when did you move out here though? When did you come to Albuquerque area? When did you
So
move to the
we
area?
we moved in 2017,
Okay.
and it was,
Okay.
a couple years before the pandemic. So I was able to start doing some things out here. And so, but man, the last couple of years have been rough, huh?
Yeah, I agree. And it makes it really tough because it's like the band that, I mean, you were trying to put together this really cool big band, and that all got sent to the
It'll
side.
happen. No,
I
no,
know
it's
it
gonna
will.
happen.
I know it'll happen. It will happen eventually. So now you said you were at Berkeley and you taught at the Berkeley School of Music. How long did you teach there? Because that's a pretty good position to be in.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I taught there for 14 years.
Wow.
And because I was interested in so many different styles, I think it was a good place for me at the time because there's so many things going on there. It's like
Right.
its own world, right?
Right.
And so by the time I left after 14 years, I was kind of done with academia and certain things. And I realized the position I was in, I didn't see much room for growth the way I
Okay.
saw growth. And so I just wanted to go out on my own. So I told Ross, my husband, I said, man, even if we don't move Boston, I'm I gotta quit. So I was ready to quit, and then he was ready for a new start as well, which was just crazy that we both said, let's do this.
Okay. And then why Albuquerque? Why? I mean, had you guys come here and visited before? Were you familiar with it? Why
Man,
here?
I know, right? So we've been a lot of places in the world, most states we've been to, either with work or traveling just on our own. And New Mexico is one place I had never been to.
Oh, okay.
Ross and I are both very kind of intuitive, kind of like feel. people. So I sent him out here. I was so ready to just have a new start. And I sent him, he said, I'm going out to Albuquerque. It was in the spring 2016. And, and he said, let's do this. And we did it. I'm trying to think, was that 2016? It was 2017. It happened so fast.
Yeah.
It was like that. Yeah.
It was just kind of,
No.
I mean, and
So
I
we
mean,
drove out here. I had
okay,
never been here. I had never been here when we moved here. Like that's how
okay.
I roll, you know. I wanted to try it, and we love it here.
No,
So
and most people don't, yeah, and I've said this numerous times with numerous interviews. Most people don't realize what New Mexico is. The scenery, the people, yeah, we're not a big city. We are not Boston. Okay, I get that, but we have quite a few good musicians here. We have a small scene, and the people here are very, very nice. And you live out on the west side of the Albuquerque area. You live specifically in Rio Rancho. Rio Rancho's got great growth. I mean, it's a very nice, it's really pretty. And, if you've never been out here, I think that's great that you were willing to take the chance just to come out here.
well, it's something I needed it. There was a spirituality that was lacking in my life, and New Mexico is just so heavy for me. I love it, and I've met some people like yourself who just are so bright, and it's just a positive place. And I know that the musicians I work with in Boston and all over the world are bright and positive people, but for some reason the scene, the situation in Boston, I just needed a fresh start, you know?
Well, and it's a big city. And
Yeah.
I can feel I understand where you're coming from. I can feel
Yes.
you completely when it comes to that. So let's talk about some of your accolades, and you've performed around the world for many years, and you have so many accolades to your name. You were a finalist in the Sarah Vaughan Jazz Vocal Competition numerous times. You've performed with the famed jazz vocal group Syncopation. And I'm reading this because I don't want to get it wrong, because there's a
No,
lot
that's
of things.
good. Thank
And
you.
and you're also a member, or you were, or I'm not sure if you are or were a member of the Diva Jazz Orchestra for a number of years. Are you still a member of the Diva Jazz Group, or
Not
not
currently.
anymore? No, not
Not
currently.
currently.
Okay.
No, the
Who
last
is
time I played with them was a few years before, a year before we moved, I think. It was a thing at a concert at Dizzy's Jazz Club in Columbus Circle in New York. But
okay?
man, that's a great band, and I mean, what a great opportunity for women. I was in that band for 5 years
Hmm.
and traveled all over the world on the bus and through the States and in Europe a bunch of times. And
Yeah,
just
I
the
mean,
great
God,
concerts
you
we
guys
did.
played everywhere with that band. And then,
Yeah.
the thing that I like the best is the fact that you're a vocalist and a trumpet player. I mean, you do both. I mean, you are an all-around package when it comes to being an entertainer. And to me, that's one step above, because you can say that you're a trumpet player, you can say that you're a vocalist. The fact that you're able to do both at such a high level, and you're also an educator, I think that says kudos to who and what you are as a musician and as an entertainer, as a performer. Do you
Hmm.
agree?
Thank you. You know, it's interesting because in the circles I travel, if I'm on a trumpet gig, sometimes I feel bad that I'm a singer because people make fun of singers. Not
Why?
now, but as I grew up doing this, I didn't recognize the value, as you just stated. I absolutely do now, because I
Okay.
know a lot of the musicians that I taught with at Berkeley, my colleagues, many of them wanted to take vocal lessons with me to learn how to sing or scat or things like that. And I always thought that was peculiar. Like, if you can play, can't you just sing it? Like I don't. But I grew up singing. I grew up singing
Right.
in the church, so I have a voice, and there's a certain amount of technique, whether or not somebody consciously works on it. If you do it for a steady and consistent amount of time, then you
Hmm.
develop technique, and that's basically what I did. My whole mindset and philosophy with music is you got to do it. It doesn't matter how much you know. It doesn't matter how much you hear. If you can't do it, it's basically useless, right? And so
Right.
if you're not trying and sucking through the bad parts and trying to get better, none of the other stuff actually feels good because I want to get better. I want it. That's one of the reasons I moved out here was because I was working so much in so many circles. I didn't really focus on my own skills as much as I
Oh,
really want
I
to,
get
you
it.
know?
I get it. So it became all about gigs and less about practicing and getting better when you're
But
gigging
that's
5, 6 nights a
yeah,
week.
exactly. And then if say you have shows or tours or something, then it's hard to keep a consistent practice routine going when you're traveling all the time. Man, I remember one time this vocal group Syncopation. I was in that band for 10 years. I
Hmm.
was the co-leader of that band. And man, we would go to Japan and we would go a few times a year during the time that we were recording over there.
Hmm.
And that was the time I was playing with Diva. I'd go from Japan back to Boston to Germany the next day, like shit like that. It was crazy, you know. And so for me, I was living the dream. I was loving it. Like as a
Right.
young girl, like man, nobody I knew in my that I grew up with was doing this, right? And so I was like, yeah, I love this. But now I'm grateful I can be in a quieter place and focus on the slower sounds of the
Well,
instrument,
yeah,
you know.
and work on your playing. That's something
Yeah.
that, I mean, we have to advance our craft, whether it be vocals or
Yeah.
trumpet. And I'm going from a
Totally.
trumpet player's point of view because I'm a crappy vocalist, but I try. But from a trumpet player's point of view, you have to play better to advance your craft.
Yeah.
And you're kind of within that catch 22 situation. You want to gig, but if you gig too much, then where are you advancing your craft? And I
And if you need to
understand that.
fix something, it's
Right.
hard to take time off. Like, yeah, I don't know, I don't want to mess with it. So, and maybe that's an excuse. I don't know, but for me,
No.
it seemed to work. Like anytime I tried to get to the next place, my chops like, oh shit, I got these gigs next week. I got these ceremonies. I got solo trumpet, whatever. Like, it's working how it is. I got to stay there. You know.
Well, yeah, and I understand that. So now let's talk about some of your recordings because I wanted to talk to you about there was a situation that came up. You recently were on Brian Hatfield's album A Life Well
Oh,
Lived.
Brad Hatfield. Yes,
Brad? Oh, I'm sorry. I had Brian. Okay, it's
that's
Brad
okay.
Hatfield. Okay. So you were recently on Brad Hatfield's album A Life Well Lived, which, oh my goodness, that was absolutely amazing. My compliments to you. I've
Thank
listened
you.
to that album 4 or 5 times now.
Oh, cool.
And you have recorded some albums under your own name. Your most recent one was in 2018. You did what is it? Christine Fawson sings jazz in
Yeah.
2018, right? But you've also been featured on some other things. There was a single that was released just recently with a local artist, and I don't know whether it's VAL or it's Val.
Oh,
I don't know.
Val.
But okay, so you released a single with her,
Good for you.
and,
That's
and
cool.
that
You
was
found that.
that was a bit of a departure for you. That was not something you normally do.
Oh, I
Can
should do
you
more of that stuff. I like Val. She's cool. Yeah,
okay.
so I met her dad. I was on the board of directors for a local music company for a second, and then I met her father somehow at an event. Anyway, things work like that. You meet people through
Right.
people. It's a random thing. And turns out she's an artist, you know? And so she asked me to do this recording with her. And it brought back the times that I played with DJs in Boston.
Okay.
There's a lot of that kind of work where there's a DJ with a horn player,
Right.
so that's kind of hip stuff. We should do more of that, huh?
Yeah, it was really cool. And I just, in case anybody's interested, I absolutely found that on Spotify. It
Cool.
was just released as a single, and I happened to be looking up your name to see what else I hadn't listened to. And this pops up, and I'm like, well, this is really different. So let's go back. Let's go back to Brad Hatfield's album because that was absolutely amazing. Is that something that was just released? Is that something you went into the studio? Did you do that, or was that something you did on your own at a home studio? How did that come about?
Great question. Brad lives in Florida, and he was a colleague of mine at Berkeley. Um, he and his wife are beautiful, beautiful people and great musicians. And Brad contacted me to record to do a jazz tribute for the TV show The Young and the Restless,
Right,
of
which he
which he's the
composes for.
composer. Yeah.
Right.
So that was for an episode. Some of those songs were on an episode of the TV show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
That
you
was
can probably
interesting.
find it on YouTube or somewhere. It's cool, you know. It's like nice to hear your trumpet going out when you watch TV. Like, hey, that's me.
Yeah, I see, and I had no idea that was recorded for it. I knew he does all the music for The Young and the Restless. I didn't realize that was for a TV show because
Hmm.
some of that music is absolutely
And they're all
wonderful.
his originals. He's
Yeah,
a great composer, totally in the style, right, of that
yeah.
genre. And so he made an album from that episode, I guess, you know, the
Oh,
episode of music. So I was really glad to be part of it. Now, how we recorded it, there's a studio in Albuquerque, Elephonic Studios.
oh, okay.
Jesse Samuel is the
Hmm.
engineer. So I went to him and recorded. And so I had Brad in my cans from
Hmm.
Florida while I'm recording in Albuquerque. Isn't
Okay.
that so cool?
Oh, it's awesome. I do it all the time. So
Yeah.
now, so he was already pre-recorded, or was he live in your ears and you were recording with him? Was his tracks already recorded?
No, yeah, all the band was recorded. He was
Okay.
engineering. He was producing the track
Okay.
in my ear. So it's like he was in the booth, but he's in
Right.
Florida.
Right.
I love that. I love
Oh
that
yeah,
so much.
it's wonderful how we can do that. I have done my fair share of stuff where, they send me the click track, they send me the music, and they say record your part, and then they put it all together. I have
Yeah.
quite a few on my YouTube page that I've been involved with
Yeah, it's amazing.
different things. Yeah, it's great that we
But
can do that.
that was the first time I'd done a live one where he was in my
Hmm.
cans while like so he could direct
Right,
like, okay, this time play a little less, do this, you know.
right. I think that's great. So,
Yeah.
so you've done all these recordings. Do you self-produce, or are you actually with a label? What are you? How are you doing all of this? In other words, I didn't know if you're signed with a label or if you're self-promoted, self-produced.
Yeah, it's all self-produced.
Okay.
When I was with Syncopation, we had a label in Japan, and you know, there's been various things that I've done for labels on other people's recordings and stuff like that. But for my own, I just pay for them. I hire the band. I get producers, and we do it. And it's about
Okay.
time I make another one. So we're gearing up to make another one soon. So
Well, good. I'm looking forward to that because I like your stuff. I like your voice. I love the way, and you do a lot of great American songbook work, and the way you weave the trumpet in. My compliments to you. I really do like your music.
thank you, thank you.
So let's talk about your nonprofit production company, and it combines music and motivational speaking, and it's called Conquer Fear. Can you tell me about that, please?
Yes. So this is something I started when I first moved here. It's actually not nonprofit. It's for profit, but nonprofit make more money. We should maybe make it a nonprofit. I
Okay.
digress.
No, that's
Uh,
okay.
so basically, what I wanted to do was work for myself first. Number two, I said, what do I do? Well, this has brought me everywhere. This has gotten me out of any city I was in or to a nut. Like, this is my, I'm so grateful that this has helped me see the world. And,
Right.
you know, and so I can't forget that. So most of my day is spent with this thing, okay?
Hmm.
And developing new concepts, trying to get to the next level of trumpet. So how this company coincides with that is I wanted to not ever take the focus off of music. So I thought, how could I make a living doing what I do, continuing to do what I do, and also help other people do what they do. So basically what Conquer Fear is it's a company that produces concerts and employs local musicians.
Oh,
And
okay.
eventually, yes, we're going to do some more motivational stuff. But man, I started out not knowing what the hell I was doing, which is okay. You know, that's kind of a good way to start because you learn, right?
Right.
And so with kind of the guide and counsel of a few family members in my close circle who are entrepreneurs, I've gotten some advice and things like that. And through trial and error, I'm realizing I'm not trying to motivate people. I got to motivate myself
Okay.
first. I can't motivate people, but I can produce concerts. So
Right.
since I moved here, when we first moved here, we had 2 Christmas concerts featuring Bobby Shue in Rio Rancho,
Okay.
and then we've produced local concerts at the libraries. So I produced 7 or 8 of those, and featuring local bands. And honestly, in Rio Rancho, people don't want to go to the big city, so they
Right.
love having the music here, you know.
Right.
So after COVID, I actually this year, this next month, I'm gonna start planning the next concert. Forget it. I just got to move on, and
Well,
if we cancel it, we cancel it. You know.
right. Well, and I understand that. So this whole thing. So why the term conquer fear then? How did that, is the conquering fear have to do with you conquering your fear to step out of your comfort zone?
It's
Or
a
was
great
it
question.
conquer fear for someone else to step out of their comfort zone?
Yeah. So it's the latter because
Okay.
I'm not afraid. I mean, to make concerts? Like that's nothing to be afraid of. No offense. Like and I don't mean to be arrogant. Like I'm not afraid.
No.
It's like it's like people ask me as I go and I make a living as a trumpet player and as a vocalist. How'd you get that gig, man? You know what? Because I played that shitty gig 20 years ago and that other shitty gig 22 and that shitty and that one and that one. It's like, because I'm not afraid. That's why
Well,
I'm
yeah,
not
paying
afraid
your
to
dues.
try. And
Right.
the point is, like, I really feel like my dad, he's an entrepreneur and he instilled this in me to be confident. Like, try. What are you going to do? So what? Someone's going to say no? Go for it.
Right.
If
Right.
nobody makes it, like, nobody, it's a difficult thing, right? And I went for it. And I want to just encourage others to kind of follow the example. Like, dude, you could do it
Ah,
too. You can make a
got it.
living in music, you know?
Right.
And that's
Conquer
kind
your
of it.
fear.
Yes, but also it's like, what fear, dude? What are you afraid of? Sucking? Dude, you're gonna suck. Like it's okay, you know, like it's okay. Once we get over that, we realize there's nothing to fear, you
Right.
know?
Yep. So now you also teach private lessons. And I think your approach to teaching private lessons, which is a little bit different than what most people teach. And how do I say this? You always talk about encouraging and inspiring. You don't teach in a way that says do it my way because I'm going to impress you. You more like you want to show musicians how to develop their own style, their own unique thing.
Yep.
That's different than what most people do. Most people you take lessons from, and I'm not saying everyone, but most people, they're like, okay, you're going to play this and you're going to play this. Whereas you kind of look at what can you do, what can't you do, and then you try to analyze and help them get better.
Hmm.
Is that something you developed when you were at Berkeley, or is that just your unique style?
First of all, great questions, man. But my dad was totally hands-on, ground up at like what is in front of you. He didn't care what it looked like. He didn't care what it was called. Can you like this is how you do it now. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how I teach. It's like, yo, I don't care who your dad is. I don't care how much money you have. Like we're gonna start right here and we're gonna play long tones or whatever, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for me, that it comes from both my dad and then being in the Berkeley environment where so many people come in with many interests. Often I would have students who were trumpet principals, but they played guitar in a rock band. And
Okay.
so they're not trying to become like Wynton Marsalis or play, in symphonies. They're just trying to make a living and maybe play their own music. And this is one more vehicle. So
Okay.
for me, I have to be flexible as a teacher and realize very few people are going for those symphony orchestra gigs. Very few people. I'm not. That's
Right.
boring to me. Like it's beautiful, and I listen to Beethoven. I love classical music, but I don't want to play like that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play more interesting stuff and different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of students do. And so the old-fashioned technique of like play out of this book and play out of this book and that stuff, there's a purpose for that. And I have the books and I play out of them. But if we're just stuck in that old technique without actual practical application, then we're not
Right.
going to be very effective as a teacher, you
Okay.
know? Now, some of my students at Berkeley will totally, and I'm a good teacher. I love teaching because I like to get to know someone. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
what are you into? Like, what do you like? And then I kind of try to use those as lessons, parallels, So I would bring up, we were talking about Clark studies earlier.
Right.
Man, I made my students play those every week, man. They probably hated it. But now, maybe, hopefully, in their lives, they're grateful because they learned how to do something, how to learn something, how to stick with something,
Right. I think, see, and I just think it's because I've always, as an instructor myself, I always try to teach people. I try to look at who that person is, what that person weaknesses are, what their strengths are, and how to develop who they are as a musician. I'm not trying to say, well, you're going to play this, you're going to play this, you're going to play Arbin, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
are you having problems with lip slurs? Let's
Yeah.
work on lip slurs. But I can make anything into a lip slur. And,
Yeah. But also the material, like what you pointed on earlier, teaching is about psychology. It's not about the shit in front of you, dude. Anybody can learn to read something and play something, man. What motivates them?
right,
Man, what I learned is I could say something to a student and then I could say the same thing to the next student and it totally messes up that kid. Oops,
right,
like, oh, I didn't know. Oh, why? Because I didn't know deeply enough where this kid was coming from.
right.
And so many of my teachers, like, with all due respect, I was a cute girl and like I could play. So like they like, took it and got distracted. Like, dude, like, like here comes a chick who could read and the psychology of that, it fucks with people with egos. Right? And so we have to know where somebody's coming from.
Right.
And as I just wanted to burn like Freddie Hubbard, man. And I didn't want to play all this other stuff. I just want to burn. And so now that's where I'm back to as a teacher, focusing on what does the student actually want?
Right.
And how can I help them with what do I want? And then how can I help them?
How can you help them get better? So now let's changing the subject just slightly. I'm a gear guy, always have been. So you're endorsed by Bach, right? So do you play on Bach trumpets?
Yes, I got a few.
You always have a few. What do you play on mostly? Which horn?
Currently, I'm just playing on the 72 lightweight that I bought from a student.
Okay.
But I also have a 43 and a 37.
So you play on a Bach trumpet and you play on a Bach mouthpiece. When you sing, I have a question. This is an odd question. When you sing, do you have a preferred microphone that you prefer to sing into? Because I've asked you all these trumpet things, but what about a microphone for your voice? What do you use for that?
A microphone is something I bring with me for sure.
And what do you use?
A Sennheiser.
Okay.
Or the Shure Beta, the Beta mics, there's different kinds. I have a couple different ones. So I bring like 3 different microphones to the venue and I try them all.
Okay.
Because sometimes the Sennheiser, it's a 857. What is it? It's a black one. It's like a SM58, sure, but it's a Sennheiser.
Okay.
And it's those dark black ones. Sometimes it's a little boomy, but I love singing jazz on that. It's like, ooh.
Do you ever sing with a headset? Just like what we're doing here. But you see the pop artists, they sing with
like
the little
Lady
headset.
Gaga.
Yeah. Do you ever do that or no?
The closest thing I've come to that is just having in-ear monitors.
Okay.
Things like that on tour with the vocal group.
Okay.
But yeah, now I'm trying to get smaller. I'm trying to get more acoustic. Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody is different. If I talk to a trumpet player, if I talk to Matt Brockman or some of these other guys about what kind of microphone they use, they will give me, their microphones like $500, $600, $800, $1,000. I use an SM57 for my trumpet.
Yes.
SM57 works great for my horn.
But it's true though. Like whatever preference.
Yeah, it's all personal preference.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we're going to wrap this up. I have a couple of questions. So what's up and coming for you? Do you have any gigs or projects or recordings? I know you said you want to get in the studio. Do you have anything upcoming where we can come and see you locally that you've got going on?
So I play once a month with the Jazz Vespers band. Robert Law is the band leader at St. John's on Arizona Street in Albuquerque.
Okay.
It's once a month. Beautiful. It's the second Saturday of every month. And they're
Okay.
live streaming, but also you can go in person. And it's a religious service, but we play jazz tunes, man. It's fun.
Okay.
So that's cool. Robert is he's my new band. We play twice a week in his garage, and we've been working on a lot of new music,
Good.
and we're about to get in the studio and record.
Oh, good. Good.
But because there haven't been live opportunities, it's been really fun to have this quiet time. I go to the river every day with my dog. We live
Right.
right close to the Rio Grande. I see coyotes. I saw an eagle the other day.
Hmm.
I see awesome birds. It's just amazing. I feel like I'm like front row of a nature channel special, every time. So I'm so grateful for that.
Okay. I will make sure I put the live stream. You'll send me the link for the live stream. I'll make sure I put it down in the comments down
Yeah.
below.
And keep
Anything else?
Yes, the
Anything
big
else that
band.
you're doing? Oh
We got
well,
to
yeah.
find a place to rehearse, and I'm gonna do it, damn it. And
We got to get
so
that going.
so this spring, that's the goal. Hopefully by
Okay.
April, we'll have a
Okay.
place to rehearse and get some gigs by the summertime.
Okay.
And then my own thing. I'm just gonna get some steady gigs around here. That's the plan. But I have sessions regularly with musicians, and so that's
Okay.
what keeps me going.
Right.
And the teaching, and I'm happy for that. But man, I'm just ready for this to be over. I'm ready to get back to work.
I understand. All right. So we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank Christine for joining us today and for her honesty and her enthusiasm and all of her energy that she puts through her vocals and her trumpet playing. I look forward to working with you in the future, and I look forward to hearing more music out of you. Thank you all very much for joining us.